Hello and welcome to the 2024 OPI Monitoring tutorial. This tutorial will cover the steps needed for the OPI monitoring. This includes a step-by-step guide to fill in the monitoring spreadsheet, submitting the Microsoft form, and how to use the monitoring guide. For the 2024 OPI monitoring, the focus is on proper form completion and case management tasks. AAA directors should have received a custom spreadsheet with a list of individuals who will be reviewed for this monitoring. Individuals were randomly selected from the current OPI consumers who are receiving paid services. The number of individuals being reviewed is based on 15% of the caseload with a minimum of 10 cases and a maximum of 40 cases per AAA. Please review your list and confirm that all individuals are still receiving OPI at the time of your monitoring. If you need a replacement name, please contact opi.policy@odhs.oregon.gov to request a new name. The monitoring process will include 4 steps. Number 1, complete the caseload spreadsheet for all identified consumers. Step 2, use the monitoring guide to collect your responses. Step 3, enter your responses from the spreadsheet and the monitoring guide into the survey. Step 4, after you complete the survey, email your completed spreadsheet to sua.email@odhsoha.oregon.gov to indicate that you have completed all of the previous steps. The first component of the monitoring is the caseload spreadsheet. You must complete this task first before you enter information into the Microsoft Form survey. The spreadsheet has links and notes to guide you through each column, and each cell requires a yes or no response. Columns A through E will initially be completed for you when you receive the spreadsheet. If you request a new consumer name, add them to the bottom of the spreadsheet and highlight the individual that is not being reviewed. Please do not delete any names from the list. A highlighted name will indicate that they were not reviewed and a replacement was provided. For each individual, you must complete columns F through S. Column T is optional and can be used for your own notes related to the specific case review. When you are ready to begin your monitoring, you will need to have Oregon Access open, as well as the paper case file or electronic file to verify forms. Now let's take a look at each column and how you will find the information you need to answer the questions. Column F, Receiving OSIP-M. If you hover over the cell, you will see the note box open up. Please mark yes if any services are approved that are not on the OK for OPI list. If you click on the cell, it will open up a document in your web browser that will take you to the list of OK for OPI services. The document that opens will also have a step-by-step guide on how to check for OSIP-M benefits in Oregon Access. As a quick review, when you have the case open in Oregon Access, click on the IEME icon and wait for the box to open. Once this is open, click on the Financial Eligibility tab to see if there are any benefits listed. Compare this screen to the OK for OPI chart and select the appropriate response on the spreadsheet. Column G is looking at the current CAPS. In Oregon Access, navigate to the CAPS icon and open up Assessments. On this screen, you are looking for the following information. Is the most recent assessment within the past 12 months? Is the assessment in admin status? Is the assessment past due? If the assessment was completed within the past 12 months, your response would be yes. If there is an assessment in admin status or is past due, then your response would be no. Column H and column I are looking for an annual narration. This should be done at the initial assessment or annual reassessment. Select the narrative icon And using the date of the assessment as a guide, you can limit your time frame. For example, if the CAPS was done on 2/16/2023, you can change the time frame in the narrative from 2/1/2023 to 2/28/2023 and click Retrieve. This will narrow down so you will only see narration that's done for that time period. If a narrative is not found that indicates it was an initial or annual reassessment in the assessment timeframe, then you would select No. Column I is to confirm that the narrative was entered within 3 business days of the assessment date. Column J is checking for ongoing case management follow-up. If you hover over the cell, it will open up a note. Ongoing monitoring narration includes things such as phone check-ins, home visits not associated with an assessment, risk monitoring, and other service-related tasks. Narration must be within the last 6 months for a yes response. The remaining columns are going to be focused on the required forms. Column K is the OPI fee determination. If you click on the cell, it will open up the form as a reference. Depending on your local process, locate this form in the client file or electronic file. You will be reviewing a couple of items for this form. Number 1, can you locate the fee determination in the file? Number 2, are all sections of the form complete? Column L will capture if signatures are on the form. If you hover over the cell, you will see a note that pops up that gives you another option. If there is no consumer signature, review narration using the narrowed down time frame to see if there is a note on why a signature was not included. Columns M through O will be a comparison between 2 forms, the 546N, which is located in Oregon Access, and the OPI Service Agreement. Column M can be located in Oregon Access or in the client file. If you click on the cell, it will open up the form as a reference. If the form is not in the client file, you can view it in Oregon Access as well. When you are in the case, click on the print icon and wait for the menu to load. On this screen, type 546N in the form number, click on the preview box, and this will open a new selection screen. At the bottom of the screen, click on All, then click Preview again, and this will bring you to the 546N print screen. With the 546 in hand, you can now proceed to the next step. Next up, locate the OPI Service Agreement or the 287L form. If you click on the cell in column O, it will open up the form as a reference. Depending on your local process, this form may be in the client file or electronic file. You will be reviewing a couple of items for this form. Number 1, can you locate the OPI Service Agreement in the file? Number 2, are all sections of the form complete? Number 3, do the listed services on the form in the middle of the page match the services on the 546N? Click on column N for an example of what to look for when you are comparing the 2 forms. As an example, if the OPI Service Agreement has the in-home care agencies identified as a provider for personal care and home care, with 9 hours a month for personal care and 6 hours a month for home care, when you look at the in-home service plan or the 546N, those hours should also be reflected on the service plan, and these should match up with the services on the OPI Service Agreement. Column O will capture if signatures are on the form. If you hover over the cell, you will see a note that gives another option. If there is no consumer signature, review narration using the narrowed down time frame to see if there is a note why a signature was not included. Please note that a consumer signature is only required on the OPI service agreement, the 287L. Column P is for the representative choice form, or 737. If you click on the cell in column P, this will open up the form as a reference. Depending on your local process, locate this form in the client file or electronic file. This form has two separate areas that you will be reviewing. The first section is the Consumer Employer Representative section. This section is only required for consumers who receive services from a home care worker. Verify if the consumer is using a home care worker from the 546N that you looked at previously. If they are, this section must be completed. The consumer can choose to manage their own employer responsibilities or choose to have a consumer's employer representative. If they choose a representative, confirm that one is listed here on page 2. The next section to this form begins on page 3. This section identifies if the individual has selected a client representative. This part of the form is required for all OPI consumers. What you want to check to see is if one of the options was selected by the consumer. This is identified on page 4 of the document. The individual can either choose to say they do not want a client representative, they do want a client representative but cannot identify one at this time, or they have opted to choose a client representative. If a client representative is not chosen, just make sure that you also have a signature at the bottom of this form. Column Q will be looking at all signatures on the 737 form, including the consumer employer representative if one is identified. If you hover over the cell, you will see a note giving you another option. If there is no consumer or representative signature, review narration using the narrowed down time frame to see if there is a note on why a signature was not included. Column R is for consumers who are using home care workers and is not required for other paid services. For this column only, you have the option to select NA if the individual is not using a home care worker. If you click on the cell in column R, it will open up the form as a reference. Depending on your local process, locate this form in the client file or electronic file. Column S will be looking for a signature on the form. If you hover over the column, it will give you a note with another option. If there is no consumer signature, review narration using the narrowed down time frame to see if there is a note on why a signature was not included. As a reminder, column T is for your note-taking purposes and not required to complete the monitoring. Before you move on to the survey, please gather the information for Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 on the monitoring guide. You will not turn in the monitoring guide. This is provided as a tool to assist you in compiling the information that you will need to enter into the survey. You'll note that under these various sections, the numbers listed on the left-hand side correlate to the survey question within the final survey. Once you have this spreadsheet and the monitoring guide information, you can move on to the final step, which is to complete the survey in Microsoft Forms. Please make sure that you give yourself enough time to complete the survey at one time, because you will not have the option to return to the survey. The information for the survey will take the compiled data from the spreadsheet and the monitoring guide and wrap it up into one document for submission. The survey has 6 sections with multiple questions in each section. Section 1 is your AAA information. Section 2 is OPI administration. Please refer to Part 1 of the monitoring guide for your responses. Section 3 is OPI caps and narration. Please refer to the spreadsheet for responses. Section 4 is OPI forms and service planning. Please refer to the spreadsheet for responses. Section 5 is plans to address identified gaps. Please refer to Part 2 of the monitoring guide. Section 6 is areas of program success. Please refer to Part 3 of the monitoring guide. Once you submit the survey, please email the completed spreadsheet to sua.email@odhsoha.oregon.gov. And now, the 2024 OPI monitoring is complete. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you have any questions as you go through the OPI monitoring, please send an email to opi.policy@odhs.oregon.gov. Thank you so much and have a great day.